All right, so this is our last lesson of the year. So excited. And we are talking about spheres. And so for a sphere, it's like a ball, a basketball, a baseball, a bouncy ball, whatever. So notice we have a surface area and a volume. So before we've been doing lateral area, surface area, and volume, but now there's no lateral because there's no edges. There's not an around part. A ball all has one big surface. So we get to cut out one of the formulas. Yay! And let's talk about vocabulary. We've got this point in the middle is your center. And from the center to a point on the sphere is your radius. And then we have this shaded circle in the middle. And notice that's going through the center, so it actually ends up going through the full diameter. And so this is called, so this shaded part right here, that is a slice of the sphere. So if we were to take a baseball and we cut it in half, and then I take that ball and I show it to you, it would look like a circle. And so it's not just called a circle, it is the great circle. Yes, you have to say it very enthusiastically, because it is the largest circle that you can cut. So like if I were to cut a baseball this way, that's going to make a circle still, right? But it doesn't go all the way through the diameter. And so the great circle is a cross section. You will need that word eventually in some of your upper level classes. But it is a circle. And if it's a circle, we will leave in terms of pi. And so using that great circle, we can find the area of that circle. So a reminder, our area formula is pi r squared. And foreshadowing, we might be given the circumference of that great circle. And circumference, reminder, is 2 pi r. So we've got two formulas. The first formula is surface area. Surface area is that pi r squared. And it actually ends up being a total of 4 circles worth. So the surface area will be 4 pi r squared. And then we have our volume. Now volume is going to take a little bit of our surface area. And it's going to take a little bit of the cone's volume, which the cone, remember, was 1/3. So for the volume of a sphere, it ends up being 4/3 the area of the base times the height. Well, the area of the base is pi r squared. But if we're talking about the height from the center to a point on that sphere, that's again a radius. So instead of saying r squared times another r for the height, we call it r cubed. And then last, we've got our units. Units for surface area are squared, and units for volume are cubed. So our first question says, find the exact surface area. When it says exact, that just means leave in terms of pi. And the surface area formula is pi r squared. It gives us that the radius is 4. And so we use our calculator. 4 squared is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. Leave in terms of pi. Final answer also includes our units of centimeters squared. And we have volume. Volume formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 pi, my radius this time is 18, and we cube it. But at this point, we've only used our calculator with a square button. So we are going to, let's see, we're going to get our calculator. And down here where we have the square button, directly next to it is a little caret top. So I want to cube 18. So I'm going to type in 18. And then I'm going to push the caret top. So you're practicing typing this in. Notice the caret top puts you up in the exponent. So when you go to those Algebra 2 classes and so on and so forth, up here, the exponent, you can make it a 3 for cubed. You can make it 4, 5, anything that you want. So we're going to cube 18. And we need to times that by 4/3. So we're going to also times that by 4/3. Hit enter. And we end up with a volume of 7,776 pi centimeters cubed. So we'll practice this again, but they gave me a diameter this time. Remember, we actually need the radius, but that's not bad because the radius is half of the diameter. So half of 12 is 6. So I'm going to plug that in for my surface area. 4 pi r squared. Radius we just determined was 6. 6 squared is 36. 36 times 4 gives you 144 pi centimeters squared. Then we need volume. Volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 pi. Radius is 6, and we cube it. Now, you do not take 4/3 of 6. You have to first cube and then take 4/3, or put parentheses around it if you do 4/3 times 6 cubed. And after you type all that in, you should end up with 288 pi centimeters cubed. Now there is also a button on your calculator, and it looks something like this. It is over here next to the book. If you push that button, it gives you several different options, and this one right here is where we could basically use that exponent. You type in 18 here, and then you cube it there. So I personally prefer the other way. All right, now those are pretty easy. It's the other 3 questions on the other side where we work backwards. So we're going to concentrate a little more time on this. So we are given the volume. If we're given the volume, that means I need to write down my volume formula. And it says that it is 4,000 pi over 3. So I'm substituting that in for my V. So we need to get rid of what's attached to my radius. Before, y'all were pretty good about, hey, we divide to get rid of. But this is a fraction, and if you divide by a fraction and you don't put parentheses around it, it could mess some things up. So the best way to solve for that is to, old friend, multiply by the reciprocal. That old word reciprocal, because remember 4 divided by 4 goes away, that's 1. 3 divided by 3, that goes away, and that is 1. So now I have this on this side. You can plug this in the calculator and just put parentheses around it, 4/3 times 4,000 over 3. But we can also think about it logically. 3 divided by 3 simplifies to 1. And 4,000 divided by 4 is 1,000. Now I still need r by itself. So I got to get rid of pi. And pi divided by itself is 1. But now we got something new going on here. We have an r cubed. So let's look at something that we are more familiar with. If I were to say r squared is 100. To get rid of a square, you would take the square root. Well, now we have a cube. So to get rid of a cube, we do what's called a cube root. So to get rid of a square, use square root. To get rid of a cube, you cube root. So we definitely need a calculator for that one because my brain's not going to work that hard. So I go on here. Where do I find this cube root? Down here where we found the caret top. We got the control and caret top. It's got the n square root of x. So if I hit control caret top, notice it gives me this here. And in that box, that's where I can type in my 3 for a cube root. I do need to arrow out of it so that I go under the root. I want 1,000 and hit enter. So we end up with the cube root of 1,000 is 10. And our units are just U for units. Now, I told you earlier there was that additional button right here with the squares. So if I push that button, that's where we can cube it, arrow over, and you can cube root that there. So if you prefer this method, you can use that. Doesn't matter to me. And then they also ask me what is the diameter. So the diameter, remember, is just double the radius. So the diameter would be 20 units. And then last, they want us to find the surface area. Surface area is 4 pi r squared. We just discovered our radius is 10. 10 squared is 100. 100 times 4 is 400. and leave in terms of pi, and surface area is units squared. So we're going to work again backwards this time, given surface area, which we just wrote that formula down. Surface area is 4 pi r squared. And they tell us that it actually is 64 pi. So I'm substituting that in for my SA, my surface area. And now I need my radius by itself. So I need to get rid of the 4. But we also have to get rid of the pi, so don't forget about that part. And pi divided by itself simplifies away to 1. Now 64 divided by 4 is 16. And to get rid of a square is a square root. Perfect. And the square root of 16 is 4 units. Just like earlier, they asked me what is the diameter. The diameter is double the radius. And last, they want us to find the volume. Volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 pi, my radius is 4. And we cube that. So we type that in the calculator. Now this one does end up as a fraction. And when you do your homework assignment / classwork assignment, it will have, I think, 6 different fraction answers. So type this in and you should end up with 256 over 3 pi with units cubed. Our last one. Woo! The last new example for the rest of the year. Our last lesson. I'm so excited. It gives us the great circle. Told you we were foreshadowing. That it has a circumference of 32 pi. So that means we need our circumference formula. We wrote that down on the other side. That was 2 pi r. So the circumference, meaning my C, I'm substituting out the 32 pi. And I'm looking for my radius. So I need to divide to get the r by itself. Also get rid of the pi. Pi divided by itself is 1. And 32 divided by 2 is 16. Now, do we need to square root this or do we need to cube root this? And no, we do not, because this is already r by itself. Cool. So the last thing we need to do is surface area and volume. Surface area is 4 pi r squared. Radius is 16. Calculator does the heavy loading. 1024, 1024 pi. And U for units squared. And last volume, 4/3 pi r cubed, 4/3 pi 16 cubed. Definitely want to type this in the calculator. Remember, you're cubing before you're doing the 4/3. That'll help make your answers for sure easier. And that one's also a crazy fraction. of 16,384 over 3 pi units cubed. And then the rest of the time is working on your 10 problems. Turn them in before you walk out. And geometry is awesome! Last lesson of the year.